All right, welcome, welcome, welcome. This will be the first of 5 videos that will teach us how to use Revit. Granted, I will not teach you how to use the entire software. That would take me months. We're only going to look at kind of using Revit on the seismic design team from the absolute start. So, to give you guys a little bit of context about why we use Revit and how we use it, it's basically our way of visualizing the tower, seeing how all of the pieces of wood are going to fit together without actually having to build anything. So on my screen right now, you guys can see a small little tower that by the end of the 5 videos, you guys will be able to build. And it basically represents the essence of why we use Revit. It's just a way to visualize how we're going to build the tower so we can communicate that information with the other people on the construction team. But as well as that, Revit allows us to export 2D views of this tower so that we can use it for laser cutting, jig making, or anything really that we would want to. Because it does export out into an AutoCAD file, DWG, if you are at all familiar with it. So to start from the beginning, I will teach you how to first download Revit. As you can tell on my computer, I already have it. This is the 2024 version, as you can see at the top, although I understand those of you who are seeing this video will have later versions, but that shouldn't really matter too much, unless you are on Mac. If you're on Mac, I don't believe you'll be able to install Revit on your computer, so you have kind of 2 options. The first option would be that you get Windows on your Mac, although I kind of agree with the general sentiment that a lot of people who have Macs don't want to get Windows. So you can probably just log into the ECF machines on campus, and they should already have Revit on them. Although an issue that we have had this year is that the version of Revit on ECFs might not be the most recent one. That's not inherently a bad thing. You just have to be cognizant of the fact that files that are made in an older version of Revit can always be opened by a newer version of Revit. But files that are made by a newer version of Revit oftentimes cannot be opened by an older Revit software. So for example, later I might teach you guys about the template that I made for you guys to build kind of these 3D models. And if, say, you have Revit 2022, you wouldn't be able to open that template. So you'd have to open an older one and kind of go through the steps of kind of making the template. But that's not what I'll be teaching to you today. So if you're able to find this video, that means you should know what the Seismic Wiki is, or at least you'll be able to ask to find where it is. Just for your context, it's on Notion. Here it is. It should be called Introduction to Revit, although I understand it might not look anything like that, or like this, since I'll be doing a lot of changes to this Notion page. But just be aware that this top kind of link here is where you have to go to download Revit. I already had it open on my other screen, but I'll open it again anyways. And basically, these are all the educational accesses to all the Autodesk products. Some that you guys might be familiar with. Obviously, Revit, the one that we're using today. Fusion 360. A lot of other disciplines use that. Not so much Civs, but AutoCAD, everybody should be familiar with that. But generally, you can just click Select onto Revit, Student, and just continue with inputting your normal school information, and you'll be able to download it just fine. So once it is downloaded, you can then download the Revit template onto your computers and simply just open it. Because once you open this template file, it'll automatically open itself in Revit. Similarly to opening a DWG file, will open itself into AutoCAD automatically. So I'll remove this summer tower out of the way. No, I don't know what to save my changes. And I'll open the template and I'll kind of go through it, fairly quickly to see what kind of you guys would see. So this is the Revit template. This is what it should look like when you download it on your desktop. And let's open it. So as you can tell, I double left clicked and it'll open Revit. Granted, my computer's a little bit slow, but that should be okay. That should be okay. See, Revit 2024. If you have a future version, that's okay. I'll still try my best to teach you how to use it. It shouldn't change too much. And for those of you who do not recognize my voice, my name is Sasha. It is my second year as the team's co-captain. I focus a lot on the construction side of the team. And I learned Revit from scratch. Granted, we had some past videos out there, but they weren't the best. So I'm making some new ones right now. So in terms of qualifications, I've learned how to use Revit myself, taught it to other people, and only now am I making these videos. So hopefully, by saying that, it'll give me a little bit more credibility when I say that you should listen to all of these videos in their entirety and try to understand as you do so. Because everything I say will be important. Sometimes I can get long-winded, but it's usually for a purpose. All right. So whenever you open the Revit template, this is what you will see. What has been provided to you can be seen on the left-hand side of your screen. To start, we'll look at the 3D view. On the 3D view, you'll see, since we haven't built anything, since we haven't modeled anything, the only thing that we have on our screen is the base plate. It should already be the correct size for competition towers. That means 18 inches by 18 inches. And that's all you will see. Otherwise, you will see that all of these plan views have already been defined for you. And these 4 elevation views have already been defined for you. Everything on the left-hand side of your screen is just looking at different views of the tower. So if I choose, say, my north elevation, you will see that I'm looking at my tower from the north side. Evidently, I don't have a tower, so I don't have anything that I'm looking at other than my base plate. But you can see the plan views actually on here. So you have one for the bottom of your base plate, one for the top of your base plate, and one at every 3 inches from the top of your base plate after that. Because that's how floors are kind of defined in the competition. And it goes all the way up to 21 floors. Don't be afraid, you can make more if you like. But the tallest that we've seen up to now has been 21 floors or 63 inches. So speaking of all these plan views, let's go look at one. Base bottom, again, is the bottom of your base plate. You will probably never use this, nor will you ever use the top of your base plate, unless we're making columns, I suppose. But the most important one is going to be all these levels. So let's start with one of those. What do you see when you open up level 1, that plan view? Well, for those of you who aren't as familiar with construction drawings, although you might have seen some of this in the second year graphics class, you will see all of these grid lines. Generally, to keep them separated, they have 2 different nomenclatures. The way that it's been done here is that you have 1, 2, 3, 4 on the bottom, and A, B, C, D on top. And that's just kind of to have that separation. But as you create your own grid lines, you'll quickly start to notice that you'll call them specific things so that it can kind of help you model quicker. But we'll get into that in a separate video. But for now, all you have to know is you have all these grid lines, you have all of these plan views, you have these 4 elevation views, and you can check out your 3D model in it. I know there are a lot of tools and a lot of things that we can do in Revit. It might look a little bit cluttered as of right now, and to be honest, it still looks cluttered to me. But that's the important stuff for now. So, thank you for watching this first video. Hopefully you have successfully downloaded Revit, understand why we use it, and have been familiarized with at least the way it looks. So in our next videos, I'll teach you guys columns, beams, braces, sharing files, linking files, everything like that. So hopefully you stick around.